Good morning. This is your AI host, Jay. I'm here with the automatically generated Journato morning headlines on April 7, 2022. Wife of I-65 serial killer reveals secret life that let him go undetected for decades. I'm lucky to be alive. The Independent, I-65 killer identified more than 30 years after murder of 3 motel clerks. Sky News, dead man linked to 35-year-old brutal rape and killing spree through DNA evidence. Daily Star, Interstate 65 killer identified 30 years after homicides, region family reacts to news. The Times of Northwest Indiana, how one serial killer evaded capture for more than 3 decades with a quiet, farmer's market life. Putin's lapdog wears Prada, Chechen leader Kadyrov poses on TikTok while his men kill civilians in Ukraine. The Independent, Putin's pet warlord Ramzan Kadyrov doubles down on Ukraine. Bloomberg, Chechen leader Kadyrov accuses Kremlin officials of disloyalty. Ukrainian sniper, Charcoal, is lauded as modern-day Lady Death. The Independent, Sniper is lauded as modern-day Lady Death. Breaking ranks with EU, Hungary says ready to pay for Russian gas in rubles. Reuters, Hungary's Orban asks Putin for immediate Ukraine ceasefire. The Independent, victorious Orban mulls paying for gas in rubles after Putin call. Bloomberg, Hungary willing to pay for Russian gas in rubles, says Viktor Orban. Financial Times, Hungary PM Orban says price caps need to stay in place as much as possible. El Salvador press cries censorship as anti-gang law targets media. The Guardian, El Salvador threatens prison for media sharing gang messages. The Independent, El Salvador's gang crackdown prompts fears of growing authoritarianism. Financial Times, El Salvador reels as 6,000 people arrested in unprecedented crackdown. The Guardian, El Salvador leader says hell cut all food for gang inmates. 2 British divers disappear while diving off Malaysian island. Sky News, British man and 14-year-old boy among 4 divers missing off Malaysian island. The Independent, 2 Britons are among 4 tourists missing after diving trip in Malaysia. German police raid neo-Nazi cells across country. The Guardian, Germany arrests 4 in investigation of far-right groups. The Independent, German police raid homes of neo-Nazis in far-right crackdown. Israel's Naftali Bennett loses majority after MP quits coalition. The Guardian, Israeli government loses wafer-thin majority, returning country to political crisis mode. The Independent, Israeli coalition under threat after PM ally quits in Passover row. The Times, Israel, Naftali Bennett once again has a Netanyahu problem. Bloomberg, Israeli government loses majority as backbencher quits. Trump News, Live. House votes to hold Dan Scavino and Peter Navarro in contempt for defying January 6 committee. The Independent, House votes to hold Trump duo Navarro and Scavino in contempt of Congress. The Guardian, U.S. House holds former Trump aides in contempt over Capitol attack probe. Reuters, Jan. 6 witnesses held in contempt. Who, why and what's next? The Independent, House votes to refer 2 former Trump advisors to Justice Department for contempt of Congress. I don't trust Yar, Sean Penn slams Hannity during appearance on Fox News. Why are people protesting in Sri Lanka? The Guardian, Sri Lanka President Gotabaya Rajapaksa defies calls for his resignation. BBC News. BBC News, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Sri Lanka President defies calls for his resignation. BBC, Sri Lankan President revokes emergency after dozens of lawmakers walk out of ruling coalition. The Independent, in stunning reversal, protests leave Sri Lanka's ruling dynasty teetering. Ukraine war, the savior of Mariupol, how fearless mechanic rescued 180 people in besieged city. Sky News, the elderly and disabled are unable to escape bombs falling on Ukraine, Bell True. The Independent, inside Mariupol, where residents bury neighbors in shell craters. Lone Ukrainian tank filmed taking on Russian armored convoy. The Independent, lone Ukrainian tank takes on column of Russian armored vehicles, and sends them fleeing. The Telegraph, Ukrainian forces use Russians' Blazing Sun thermobaric weapon against them. The Times, Watch, lone Ukrainian tank takes on Russian armored vehicle convoy, and sends them fleeing. The Telegraph, lone Ukrainian tank ambushes Russian armored column, news. Ukraine says Russia will see new sanctions as permission to attack, amid warnings of fresh offensive. The Guardian, EU to snatch Kremlin's oil and gas profits to rebuild Ukraine. The Times, EU spends 35 times more on Russian energy than weapons for Ukraine. The Telegraph, Ukraine seeks ruinous sanctions on Russia amid European hesitancy. Reuters, €1 billion for Ukraine, €35 billion for Russian energy. Top EU diplomat calls out funding gap. This was all for the news. Thanks for listening. Please do not forget to like and subscribe.